So wait,
Okay.
one thing before we start. Are you a feet model now?
No.
Is that no? I saw
No.
something in your chat right before I joined.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of Feature Complete, where we talk about game dev and everything related to it. I'm one of your hosts, Muddasheep, aka Philip, alongside the absolute madman. Chirpy, how are you doing today?
I am doing quite alright. How are you?
I'm also doing quite all right. We have finally reached 40 degrees here in Vienna. But we are not going to talk about the weather today. We are going to talk about game dev, which I'm very excited about. The topic of today, ladies and gentlemen, is finishing projects. And we talked about this before the podcast. We said it is a very broad topic, right? So we could probably be talking about it for like hours or whatever. But it is very important for us right now because I just finished a project and released it in November, but I'm still kind of working on it. So the term finished is very confusing or very hazy. And Chirpy over here, he's currently working on Shard of Gloom, and he wants to release it soon, trademark.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's start with that. Like my question to you is like, how is the project right now? And do you have kind of like a roadmap of like, what is the project going to be like when it is finished, when you can let it go to the world?
Yeah, so I would say I do have a little bit of a roadmap as of right now. I mean, to be clear, I have pushed my release date a few times by now. But the plan is that I'm going to do the Steam Next Fest in October and release the full game in November. In terms of when I'm going to be ready to actually call it complete is a little bit harder because I think it's one of those situations where it's gonna have to be complete. Whatever state I am at that point. Because I don't think I can push it any further now.
Okay. And the reason for that is because
I'm running out of money. To be clear. No, I mean, obviously I still have money, but it's getting lower than I would like it. And I think at some point you just need to call it a day, and say, I need to get this out now.
Right. So was there ever a point before that where you thought that, you know what, I could call it quits right now and finish, let's say, okay, release it now?
Yes, I think I could. I'm almost at the point where I think I could release it today and I would be quite happy with it. Like, obviously there could still be stuff I wanted to do and so on, and maybe wish I could have had time to do. But overall, I think I would still be proud of the game if I released it now. Then of course the question is, why wouldn't I release it now? But that's where, I don't know. I personally feel like I'm kind of in too deep anyway at this point, if you know what I mean. So I might as well go all out on this project, and I know I can make it until the end of the year. And I think that gives me, since the game is almost finished as of right now, it does give me a lot of extra time to focus on marketing and actually trying to get the game out there, which is basically my plan.
Okay. So do you think there is a lot of like post-launch updates you're gonna do?
I probably not. I don't think so, because I mean, obviously I'm going to update the game if we start finding a bunch of bugs and so on. Like, I don't that part you don't really ever get out of, right? Like, whenever you release a game, if people start finding bugs or things like that, you want to sort them out. But in terms of like adding a bunch more content or anything like that, I don't think so. Because at the end of the day, I am making it quite a linear game, and I don't think my game maybe is the type of game where the audience is going to expect a bunch of new updates post-launch. I would say that's probably different for you, inherently making a more, replayable game.
Right. I mean, so when I released it in November, I think I was at a point where I also felt like, you know what, I have to kind of release that.
Why? Like out of similar reasons, or just that? Let's actually wait. Can I go back a little bit first?
Yes.
So how long did you work on Faith in Despair?
I worked on it since March 2023.
Okay. And you released it in November now, yeah. So was that would you say that was that not your initial roadmap? Like when you started, when did you plan on releasing the game? Did you have any?
So originally I didn't want this project to be another project that takes 3 years to complete, because it is a systems-based game. And in the beginning I was like, you know what, this game is, I can quickly throw out a roguelike deck builder. Like, how hard can it be? Like, so I was a bit naive in that regard. And I also said in the beginning, you know what, I don't need art. So this is going to be finished in like, I don't know, 1 or 2 years. How hard can it be, right? But what happened to me was I took part in a lot of, like not masterclasses, but like kind of meetings or whatever, where there was a publisher and it was kind of a fake pitch deck where we had a publisher here and we had also a lot of other game devs here. And all of us pitched a project as if we were pitching to a publisher. And so the publisher and also the other game devs there gave us a lot of feedback. And this one single event changed it a lot for me. So I was like, okay, you know what? I need art. I need to invest a bit more time, a bit more money, of course. And that was when I was like, you know what? Also looking at other roguelike deck builders in the same genre and stuff like that. I just realized, you know what? This needs more time and more care. And yeah.
So, okay, so that's when you basically realize that you are gonna need to put in a bit more time. And then you release it in November, and was that because you just felt like enough's enough? Or was it were you in my position as well, where it's a little bit like, I just, financially also, I need to get this out, or?
I actually have no idea. It is really interesting, because if I think back and I'm like, you know what, in this state, it is fine in this state, I can release it. I think my thinking was that I saw the wishes numbers and it wasn't like 100,000 wishes or whatever. So I was like, you know what, I think I need to get it out to see if the interest holds up, or if people are actually gonna play it. Because from the demo, yes, there were people that played the demo. But I don't know. I didn't see the results that I felt really excited about, if that makes sense. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I will cut my costs here, and maybe I will just release it how it is. And then what happened was, I got a lot more positive feedback than I thought I would get. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to invest another year. So I thought that the project was not where it could be. Definitely. I was like, okay, there are certain aspects of the game where I can invest more time and money and whatever to make it even better. Like, for example, there was the introduction where you pick like one of the days in the journal to play. You can play every day, so you have a bit of a story going on. And it was very bare bones. It was like really just a calendar page, basically. It looked very basic. And there were certain, for example, the shop didn't have a different background and stuff like that. But it was very, very visual and not really gameplay. So my thought back then was, you know what, the gameplay itself is where it should be, because this is Faith in Despair. This is how you. So the basic gameplay look is in the game. The loop is in the game, and everything else is basically just fluff. Just the cherry on top or whatever. And I was like, you know what? If the game gets a good rating in this state, then I can invest more time and money into it. That is where we left off.
So basically, doing the release was your way of testing whether the game had interest, thus being, to justify working more on it.
Yeah, which is weird, right? Because I had a few soft launches during the whole development phase. I had a soft launch on Newgrounds. I had a soft launch on itch.io, and I had another one on Android. So I had all of these launches leading up to the Steam launch. And so I was like, you know what? I mean, I always got good feedback. People always said, you know what, this is really fun to play. And then I was like, okay, if it's really fun to play, and I always looked at the feedback, what I still can fix. And at some point I was like, you know what? Oh, yeah, the final soft launch was the demo launch. The demo launch and Steam Next Fest, right? I also count this kind of like a soft launch. So that is what I did. I updated the game throughout its development. I had a demo out very early. And at some point I was like, you know what? I'm not getting like this lightning order. There's no excitement. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to cut ties with this project and put it out. And I don't know. It gets 10 reviews and that's it. But yeah, it got a bit more than that. And in terms of, there's another episode, I guess, in terms of how you define success, for me, it's the most successful projects of all of my projects so far, like in terms of how much money I gained and how many reviews it got and whatever. So this is why I decided, okay, I will invest another year into it and then I will call it quits.
And would you say in hindsight, are you happy with your decision of when you released it and so on?
I would say yes, because otherwise I wouldn't be at where I am today. So if I moved the release date further away, I don't know. I don't think I could have gotten to the point where I am with the game right now, because I think I needed this next push or whatever you want to call it. I needed this extra visibility and all of these additional eyes on it to really see, like, you know what else can it be, or how much further can this game go?
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think I also relate to that in some regard, because I think, obviously, I'm planning on releasing a quite major update to my demo in hopefully just a week or two. And I think that this demo is going to be way better than the last one that I did release. I think that's objectively the case. And sometimes it's easy for me to start thinking like, maybe that means I released the demo too early. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe this should have been my first demo. But at the same time, I'm not sure if one can say that that is the case, because the whole, like me deciding to release the demo when I did also gave me a major push to finish up a bunch of content and make a bunch of decisions about like how the game is going to be and so on, that I think turn out quite good. And it's likely that maybe if I didn't do the demo then, I wouldn't be doing the exact same content I'm doing now, and maybe it would have actually been worse because of it.
Yeah. So do you also think that the game now got better because you released it early, quote unquote, right?
I mean, I can't say if I know that objectively to be the case, right? But I think that very much could be the case. Like, I do suppose that maybe an argument for why it's not even valuable thinking about is because I'm never gonna know, right? Maybe it would have been way better to wait. Maybe we wouldn't have, like, there's no way of knowing. So the only thing one can do is kind of to assume that this was for the better. Maybe I'm in denial, maybe not, but I'm fine with it.
There's a lot of copium flying around right now.
Exactly.
No, it is what it is, because you will always have these what if questions. So even if you say, yeah, what if I invested another year into this project? Yeah, but what if you also, spent this next year onto a completely different project or whatever? Like you never.
No, yeah.
Unfortunately, we cannot A and B test in real life. Unfortunately, that's not true.
Yeah. No, and I think that makes sense, even like now related to the whole idea of like releasing games or finishing projects. Obviously, I have not finished this project yet, and I meant to. Like, I think if someone dug around enough, I think you can even find a clip of me after the game jam where I live on camera said that I'm gonna spend a couple of months on this game and finish it. I am currently more than 1.5 years into the development after the game jam, so obviously this ended up being bigger and taking up more time than I initially planned for. And maybe that's, you could argue that that is very risky because obviously, as I mentioned, I am starting to run low on my savings as someone who's doing this full time. And I am basically at the make it or break it point where I have put all my eggs in this one basket. And if this game does really poorly, then, I'm going to need to find another way of making money. And so then you could argue that maybe what I should have done is just like said, screw it, release this game after a couple of months, whether, it was good or not. So I could have worked on another game, then maybe that would have done better. But my counter argument is that in that case, what I'm doing is basically that I would be guaranteeing that this game would not do well, because I can promise you it wouldn't have if I would have released it after a few months. And I am instead betting on a potential game that doesn't exist yet. And technically, I'm not entirely sure whether that would have been a safer option or not, because I think that my game is a lot better today, and although you can never be guaranteed, at the very least I'm hopeful that the game could do well.
Right. There is a point when you, so at least to me, from my perspective, so I committed to doing another year of updates, right? And there comes a point where you're starting to think of adding things that might actually not align with your with the original vision of the project, right? So, but I don't think you're at this point yet, right? You're still like, you know what? Everything I do is like for this project and for the original vision, right?
I mean, I don't know if I can. I definitely can't say I've not wasted any time on potential features that are not going to make it into the final game. I did make a full-on battery system that got completely scrapped, as an example. But I also think, for me to make this game into the best game it could be, I kind of feel like I had to do that. Because, it's kind of like just a little bit too much prototyping, I guess. I thought that was going to be a good feature. But at least now I can be confident that it wasn't. I think the game is a lot better without it.
I mean, the fact that you realized that and you actually had the guts to pull it out of the game, I mean, that is I think that is not what a lot of other people would have done, honestly. I think a lot of, maybe, 80%, I don't know, of other developers would have left it in the game because they felt like, no, this is part of the identity. And you guys don't get it or whatever.
Yeah, no, sometimes I feel like it might be a little bit of sunken cost fallacy as well. I've spent maybe multiple days implementing and bug fixing the system and getting it to the point where it works. And then when you realize that maybe this isn't actually the best system, it's still fairly easy to justify it as but I've spent so much time on it. So it's easy to kind of get into denial and be like, no, we need to keep this system. But it's the whole thing. What's the expression? As an artist, you have to kill your projects or whatever.
You kill your darlings.
Kill your darlings. That's the term.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you need to, because I think for me at the end of the day, like this is my first proper game I'm like releasing on Steam and so on, and the most important thing for me actually is that like I just want to feel good about it when I release it. Like
right, no, you want to have no regrets. You want to play the game like in 5 years and be like, you know what, I did everything I could.
Yeah.
Right?
No, yeah, exactly. And that's why I feel like if I would have released the game 6 months ago, which I probably could have, like if I would have set a proper deadline, I could have released it 6 months ago. But I feel quite confident in saying that the game would not have been as good because, I mean, it also is the case that I have been learning a lot during the development of this game. And that is part of the reason why it's taken me a lot longer, because I had to do a bunch of mistakes to figure out what the good things are and so on. And I mean, even in terms of genre, I would say that my game has pretty much changed. Like the Game Jam version was the way I usually put it is that it was a horror game with a little bit of a puzzle element to it, where I would say that it was more similar to a game like the original Five Nights at Freddy's. Like it was kind of arcadey.
Okay.
In that sense. Whereas now, I would say that this is like a full-on point-and-click puzzle adventure with like a hint of horror. So like the balance there has changed quite drastically. But similar thing that I could have kept going with the same idea, but I don't think that would have worked for a bigger game, and I don't know, I'm fairly confident that I made the right decision.
Mm-hmm. So do you still kind of sometimes see the old version and be like, you know what, maybe I could bring some of those elements back before release? Or
I mean, I have considered it. I mean, I would say that I actually ended up even scrapping the main mechanic of the Game Jam. The thing that I built the entire Game Jam around, I actually ended up scrapping. Which is the kind of stealth mechanic of hiding from the monster by turning off the flashlight.
Wow.
That is not in the game at all anymore. And that was what I like. The theme of the Game Jam was safe in the dark. The entire game was built around hiding in the dark by turning off the flashlight. But the issue now is that I think that mechanic could be good. I think it could have suited the game. But I've also built a bunch of other stuff which is not compatible with it anymore. If that makes sense. So I don't think I could re-implement that mechanic again.
I see. So let's talk about the finished version of Shroud of Gloom. Do you have how do you get there? So if, for example, somebody in chat, Strom, if somebody in chat wants to finish a game, like how do you get there? How do you have like a roadmap, or do you have like a list of features or scenes that absolutely have to be in a game for it to be finished, in your opinion? Like, what is your current?
I feel like I'm the one who should ask you this question, because you're the one who actually finished the project. But I can give my quick 2 cents here, and then I think, you know, and then we can see whether you relate to it or not. But like I said, in my situation now, it's like it would have been different if I had a infinite budget right now. I think my strategy would have been different. But right now, I am, to be honest, getting to the point where, as I said, I just need to get this game out eventually, and I'm quite set on, like, around November is basically when I think I need to get it out, pretty much after the next fest, and just call it a day. And as I mentioned, for me, I feel like I'm quite happy with where the game is as of right now. So I kind of see it as anything that I have time to do is going to be a bonus. I am probably going to add a bit more content. I'm going to add maybe a new puzzle or so. But it's not really because I necessarily feel like I have to. More so because I've decided to take a few extra months to market the game. So I might as well take the time to do the final polish and see what else I could do with it. Kind of just as a way of doubling down. And yeah, I do have a list. I do have a proper like to-do list, if you will, of stuff that I would like to do. But I would say that vast majority of it is like in the if I have the time budget. I would be willing to scrap all of it if I had to, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's from this point on only nice to have, basically.
Yeah. I would say it's pretty much. I mean, I do still have a few like minor bugs and like a few things I want to polish up a little bit in the game right now. But in terms of like new features or new puzzles, new content, and so on, I would say that is all nice to have things. Because originally, I should say, I wanted to be a part of this next fest in June and release the game now. And I think I could have. But yes. I very purposefully chose to delay the release one final time, mainly because I didn't feel comfortable enough with the amount of wish lists I currently have to go into the next fest. Because as some people might know, it's sort of known as a wishlist multiplier. I.e., the more you go in with, the more you're gonna get out of it.
Yeah, apparently it's ×2, right?
Yeah, that seems to be the general rule people say. Like, you're basically going to double your wish lists. And the unfortunate thing for me is that I think I started marketing my game way too late. I think I should have maybe put more time and effort into that. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's the same thing as we said before. Maybe my game wasn't ready to be marketed before either. That could be a pretty good argument. Right. But yeah, I haven't done like a proper marketing push. And I feel like, you know, if I would have released my game now and it didn't do well enough, maybe because I never tried to properly market it, I would have looked back with regret for the rest of my life. Whereas taking an extra like 3-4 months, actually giving it my all, seeing if I can get as many wishlists as possible and then release the game and, you know, maybe up the odds that this becomes somewhat of a success, you know. At least whether it is successful or not, I will be able to look back and know that I did whatever I could, you know.
Whatever I could, yeah. Do you think, so sometimes it's not even, sometimes it's really hard to market a game because it's more like play to believe, right? So you have the example of Slay the Spire because they released some GIFs and videos on social media and they didn't get like a lot of traction in the beginning at all. They had to release their early access game for it to gain traction. So I think this was like kind of what happened to Fate and Despair, where it's like, yeah, the demo had some nice feedback and stuff like that, but with the release, I don't know, something about the change, something about the game changed, something about the feedback changed. I don't know why, really. Maybe because it was no longer free. I really have no idea what exactly made like the entire thing change. I don't know. It was very strange. But maybe, so this is my hope for Shroud of Gloom as well, where yes, you would try to get some marketing wishes and whatever, but maybe the starting point will also be the launch when it finally has a price tag attached to it. Maybe then the perceived value of the game also changes because it's no longer just a free demo, but it is actually like, you know what, this has a value attached to it, and people are actually gonna notice it. I don't know.
No, I think that could be the case. Like, you also never know. At the end of the day, I know other developers who released the game with 400 wish lists, which, generally speaking, according to what people say in this area, that is like objectively too few. And I think at this point, I think they have sold quite a bit above 10,000 copies of the game. Now, obviously, I'm not delusional. I am very well aware that this is going to be like an exception to the rule, right? But it's more so to say that, like, as you were pointing to, like, it could actually be post-release that might be where your game kind of takes off.
Yeah. There was something that Imhotep earlier said. You only get one shot, and it's tough balance of letting go enough to not chase too hard, but still stick to a project and put your heart into it. So what I want to ask you is, do you think a part of you delayed the game because it is hard to let go? Do you feel like there's a part of you where you think that's true?
Okay, me delaying the game because it's hard to let it go. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm in denial, sure, but I don't think so. I don't feel like that's the case. Like, if anything, I am actually quite excited to finish up this game. And I can tell that, like, physically as well, like, as some people might be aware, I recently went on a small little holiday for like a week or whatever. And it was the first time in a long time where I noticed that the amount of ideas I started having for new games, like, it went a little bit overboard. Like, I wrote like 2,000 word game design documents during that week. And I think that, if anything, I think that kind of proves that I am physically getting ready to be done with this game. So yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like that's the case. What would you say? Do you relate with that?
Yeah. The reason I ask is because I kind of feel like whenever I showed people Faith in Despair, people always said, "Oh my God, this has so much potential," and I'm like, can you tell me what the potential is? Because I'm like sitting here and I kind of know what the potential is, but people always said, this is so good. It has so much potential. And I'm like, okay, we're still talking about potential. Okay, then, you write ideas down and stuff like that. And then you keep updating the demo and updating the game after launch. And it's like, are we there? Are we there now? Have we reached maximum potential? Where is that?
Yeah. How would you know if you've reached it or not?
Yeah, exactly. So this is why I decided to invest another year, which is, I think it's kind of crazy because I could be working on the Vampire Survivors clone right now and making more money. But I didn't do it. So, but again, this comes from the fact that people say there's potential there. And you know the meme where the guy is hitting the mines and he's this close to the diamonds? Yeah. So it's like, oh, wait a minute. This update, and then I fulfill his potential, right? This is, oh no, wait a minute, I have one more update.
I think it's incredibly difficult, right? Because at the end of the day, it is always going to be a bit of a balance. Because you do kind of want to say to people, make sure you don't quit too early. Like, actually, keep at it. But at the same time, I also know, for me at least, if I wanted to, I could continuously polish this game for another 10 years if I wanted to. But, at some point, you also need to just decide that it's done. I do quite like that. That's another quote in the creator spaces, right? The one where, what is it? Art is never finished. It's merely abandoned. And I think there is some truth to that. Like, at some points, you just have to decide that you're finished, whether you actually feel like it or not. So
yeah, absolutely.
I assume, do you feel like did you finish Faith in Despair, and is this like bonus stuff you're doing, or are you still finishing it?
Honestly, I think I'm still finishing it. So this is because when I released it in November, I knew that, again, I said this before, but I knew that the core gameplay is there. It is like a functioning game. I can sell it for a price. But in my head, it's like, this is not the best version that it could be, but I feel like I have to get it out because, I don't know, there was another thing that came out, in March, Slay Spire 2. I was like, I think I need to get it up before then. No, but these are all not really good reasons to release it. I think one part of me was like, you know what, I have to get it out and see if. So one thing that I always say is, on launch day, the truth comes out. Before that, you're just in denial. You just everything's very hazy. There's one thing that I actually don't like. It is when you're always asking for a wish list. I think so. Basically, a call to action for wish list is good, but I would like to have a Steam page where the impulse is to just buy it, not the impulse to just wish list it, right? You have to make a game that is so good that you bypass that wish list thing entirely, because the wish list is kind of like a, yeah, maybe, you know? So what I thought was like, you know what, if I release it, then I'm past this maybe. I don't know. Maybe then it's like, you know what? But you can twist it around if you want it. You know, you can put it from a few from all kinds of angles. At the end of the day, we're all kind of delusional.
Yeah.
That is probably why you make even games.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky balance.
Absolutely.
To figure this stuff out. I don't know. Would you say now, like, you probably released quite a bit more projects than I have, and so on. And what would you say? What would your recommendation be for someone who might be struggling with finishing a game?
So I think it depends on where you are in your game dev journey or whatever you're making. It might not be just game dev related or whatever, but I assume people listening are game devs. I think what you really need to do is, and there's also what I did in the beginning, is, and this is so cliche, but making small projects really, really helped me. In the beginning, I made Half-Life maps. So they were like self-contained maps that were just multiplayer maps. And I released them, and it was basically a finished project, right? It was like every map had one kind of gimmick, and that was it. I released it to my friends to play it. And then I released like kind of a small Half-Life mod, like a single player mod that you could also play from beginning to end. Now for that, I actually had a few false starts, which is now in retrospect kind of interesting. I could not finish those because of technical issues. But as soon as I finished the first one, a lot of things started to happen, because you learn how to finish projects, and you also you get all of these ideas out of your system, so you can work on the next one. And the sooner you finish a project, the sooner you can learn from your next project. Which is why I think this advice, I know it is given every time people ask about what to do or whatever, but having like small projects or like small scoped projects in the beginning is really, really helpful. Now, if you're at the end of if you're like a senior game dev, like the guy who made Braid, who is Jonathan Blow, who is now working on what is this game called? Order of the
Sinking Star.
Something like that. Yeah, I believe you. Let's go with that. Order of the Singing Star. And apparently he's worked on it for 10 years. He made his own programming language. He made his own engine. And I mean, you can do that. Was it good for his company? You have to ask him about that.
The truth will come out on release.
The truth will come out on release. Exactly what I said. I would say to him as well. And he knows that for sure. But yeah, so in my case, Faith and Despair, I don't know. This is such a weird project for me, because I know that I've learned a lot with the project. I know that I've learned a lot with releasing it, and I'm currently finishing it. But it is such a strange project, man. But I'm also really excited about the next one. I don't know.
I think I relate fully to everything you're saying, because like, I think my project is objectively quite strange as well. Like I said, it's barely the same game as it was intended to be. I've changed the genre. I've changed the gameplay so much that I don't think I ever would have even seen where the game was actually going. And now I do think that's pretty bad, because when I initially announced the game, I was basically announcing a different game, if that makes sense.
Really?
I would say so. Like, a good example of this is when I made the Steam page, the game I targeted, in the sense of like the game, the type of games I wanted to be similar to in terms of tags and so on, was games like the original Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, in hindsight, I think my game is not similar at all to Five Nights at Freddy's. I think it was at the time when I made it, but I don't think, like, my target audience are not the people playing Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, I've learned quite a bit about my game like during the development, and I think it's fair to say that I should be targeting the people who play games like Rusty Lake and so on, which is much more of like a proper point and click game with like a little bit of like a horror or psychological horror vibe to it as well. Like, that's much more what my target audience would be playing. So for that reason, I think it's kind of bad. But at the same time, I don't regret it either, because similarly to what you said, I think I've learned so incredibly much from this project. And I honestly think the game is good. I think my game could do well, and that's a feeling I don't think I would have had if I would have just stubbornly decided to stick with the original idea I had and just released it as soon as possible, because I don't think the game would have been good at that point. But with that being said, I would also, as you said, say that it depends a lot on your situation, right? Because it's a little bit of one of those do as I say, not as I do situations, where I would also tell people that you should make small games. I would tell myself that I should have made a smaller game. But I'm not gonna listen to that guy. But you should. You should.
You should. No, I'm gonna make a 5-year project over here.
Yeah. My two first game dev projects ever were both open world RPGs that I never finished. So quite literally, don't do as I do. Like, you should make small games. I think that long term is the best thing you can do, but that's if we're talking generally, right? Because at the end of the day, like in my situation right now, I think the best decision was to spend more time on this game. Now, it could be the case that I spend a bunch of extra time and money on this game and it actually nets me 10 more sales. Financially, that would not be worth it, but I don't know. For me personally, success is more than just financial.
Right. This is something that when you try to finish something, it is very hard to gauge what actually will move the needle. It is so hard to say. Like, what if I add 10 more Easter eggs? That like 1% is gonna find. Will it move the needle? I don't know. But it sounds cool, right? So why not have another 10 Easter eggs?
Yeah.
There's a lot of these questions that you get towards the end of a project.
I would say it's probably my main lesson from this project as well. Like, I'm pretty sure that for my next game, one of the main things I'm going to focus on is making sure that I have a quite decent idea of the game I'm making. Because I think that has a lot of advantages to it. And
so you think because you've gone through this project now, Shard of Gloom, your next one is going to be more concrete from the start?
I think so, yeah. Obviously, that's not to say that there's not going to be any changes to the initial idea. Like, that's always going to be the case. But with this game, I feel like I said, I would say that I've even changed like the genre of the game. And generally speaking, I feel like that's maybe shouldn't happen 6 months into development. You know, you should probably have at least a little bit stronger idea of the game you're making.
That does sound very risky, yeah. But yeah, I think again, this speaks to the advice that is flying around. Like, you need to make smaller games, so you're not only getting better at finishing games, you're also going to get better at starting games and like thinking of ideas, because then you refine the way you like plan out how a game is going to look like in the future, because you know more about your capabilities, right? So you know exactly what you're able to do, and then it's like, oh yeah, your vision is kind of clearing up a bit more. I think this is what happens when you finish or when you do a lot of this.
I definitely agree. I feel like when we just look at game development, we naturally think of like the skills being programming, art, making music, game design, and like this is what game development is. But I think that, like, as you kind of alluded to, that like I think finishing games is an actual skill that you should practice. And I think it might be said too that it might be one of the harder ones to acquire, because there's so many pitfalls in it. So I do agree. At the end of the day, I think people should make smaller games. And I'm being a bit hypocritical here, but that I think it is it might be a bit cliche, but I honestly think it's the best advice.
Yeah. There's do you know Sock Pop games? The Sock Pop games, they released like a game every month for quite a while. They even had like a Patreon up. And that was really interesting to see, because at one point they landed on an absolute hit. It is called the thing where Stacklands. You probably heard of Stacklands, right? If not, it is. Okay, it's basically like you have a lot of cards on this board, and there's a lot of like idle mechanics and stuff like that. But I think like having a lot of these small releases, it just led them to eventually landing on a really, really good game. Because it's like they have all of these systems in place from other games that they could eventually copy over, like, UI stuff or whatever. Like along the way, you're solving so many problems that you can, like, even building a game becomes a bit more like, putting different blocks together and then like turning a few knobs, and it's like, oh, you now already have a kind of a new game. So I think like not even just from experience, but also from a technical standpoint, you're building up a repertoire of code that you can reuse, something like that. So yeah, this is I think a good example.
Yeah, absolutely. I think starting to think about code as something reusable and like modular, generally speaking, is a very, very good strategy. Which might sound obvious, but it took me surprisingly long to figure that out. I think I was probably developing for multiple months, if not an entire year, before it kind of clicked in my head that, wait, if I just make the code good and flexible once, then I could theoretically reuse this for like infinite other projects.
Yeah, in theory.
I think in terms of making those smaller games as well, as you said, the good thing there is that if you push out a bunch of small games, you don't need every game to do well.
Yep.
And I think that's a pretty good advantage to have. Because obviously then you don't have to sit like me right now. It's a little bit more stressful when it's like a make it or break it situation. Like I put all of my eggs in this one basket, and this has to go well for me to make this financially viable. And, so in that sense, you could argue that maybe I should have done more smaller games as well. And I think, that might be right. We'll see. The truth will come out at release.
The truth will come out, indeed.
But at the same time, it would be silly to go up to Concerned Ape and say, yo, you shouldn't have made Stardew Valley. You should have made a few small... You should have started with Pong.
Exactly. I mean, one can argue that with Stardew Valley, I think he had several like smaller iterations. I think he had like several versions of the game almost, right? Because he like redid it. He redid all of the assets like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I know he redid the art multiple times.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds to me like he was always making a new game on top of the old one. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, this is... we should not be talking about Outlast, Chirpy.
No, I do think that's the case as well. Like, generally speaking, these are, of course, like, outliers. They are quite massive exceptions to the rules. But it also, I don't know, it can be important too to at least remember that it's not always completely black and white.
Right. Wow. I mean, Connor Zero over here says, you stumble upon a good idea that you like and you want to pour passion into it. Some people never get to have this experience. And I think, like the creator of Stardew Valley, he found something that he was really passionate about. And yeah, he got to pour his entire existence into it and it paid off. Yeah. So I think this cannot be understated. Like sometimes not finishing a game or delaying finishing a game is not because you want to make the game better per se, but maybe it's just, maybe you have more ideas or maybe the project just needs more attention from you. That can also happen. But this is something that happens to me, and I'm sure that happens to you as well. The project at one point starts to speak to you. And it sounds kind of like the ghost. There's a ghost in my apartment. But, sometimes you just sit down and then the project just says, yeah, this needs to happen and this needs to happen before anything can be called finished or whatever. So I think there's kind of like almost like a dialogue that's happening between you and the creation.
No, I very much agree. As you said, I think even the expression like the game speaks to you is a quite good term, because I think that is true. Like, making games is a very iterative process, and a lot of the time the iterations quite literally stem from the thing you just tried.
Yeah.
Like, I tried adding the batteries, and eventually the game told me, no, we should not have batteries. This is not good for the game. So then I tried something else, and, and I think that is quite common. I think even GMTK made a whole video about this, if I'm not mistaken. I think he has a video about, I think the title is something like The Games That Design Themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that basically speaks to a very similar thing here, where a lot of the time the game will almost tell you where it wants to go,
If you decide to listen, yes. Yeah. If you tune in.
Maybe now I should go back on my earlier statements. Maybe you shouldn't completely figure out what game you want to make, because, it's gonna be something different anyway. What do I know?
What do we know? Stardew Valley was one of these. I can make a better game. He was frustrated how bad Harvest Moon games were. I mean, yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't talked about scope creep yet. But I think actually we have run out of time. What do you think, Chirpy?
Yeah, I think we're getting there.
I think we have gotten to a big, good hour here. So yeah, finish your games, ladies and gentlemen. You can
make
do it.
Them small.
Make them small.
Unless you're making Stardew Valley, then make them big.
Then just keep going. You're good.
Yeah. Just do the right thing.
Just listen to your project and do the right thing.
Yeah,
that's it. That's a good way to end it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Feature Complete, where we talk about game dev and everything related to it. If you have a topic that you would like us to discuss, please post it in the Twitch or YouTube channel or in the comments or whatever, and we will likely pick it up in a future episode. Remember, Feature Complete is never the end of it. We will be back in 2 weeks. Until then, have a good day, everybody. Thanks everybody for joining us and helping us with the technical issues. All right, see you, everybody.
See you next time.